It's great to have all of you back in the studio with us in the series entitled The Law of Karma, Destiny and Choice. Today we will be looking at receiving fortune according to one's karma. I'm in the studio with Sister Denise from the Brahma Kumaris. It's great to have you back. Hello.
Thank you. Hello, Magla.
How does one get to the understanding that everything that I receive is according to the law of karma? Not many people have that stance.
Yeah, this is very true, and it's usually because people think that karma, the word karma applies only to bad karma, and they don't realize that there's bad karma and good karma. They think karma, the word itself, means bad karma, but in fact karma is a word referring to action. So it could be anywhere from really bad to really good, and there are corresponding consequences. So if you're experiencing all sorts of good things, then you'd have to say, this is your good karma. But what people often do is they don't attribute it to their own good karma, they will consider it as a gift from God. And they do this because they think, well, if I attribute it to my own karma, it's not as elevated as if I attribute it to God. And so the, you can say the politeness takes precedence over the facts.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of it being their good karma. Because the thing is, if you say all the bad things is because of my karma and all the good things is because of my karma, it's considered ego because you're pushing God out of the picture. So in order to, be free from ego of I got this good fortune and it's me who created it, that would be considered ego. So if you say I got this good fortune because God gave it to me, then that sounds better.
Is there such a thing as a self-made man or woman?
We do say that, don't we? Mm. But when we say self-made, we mean the person started with nothing and they created their own fortune. They didn't inherit a fortune, right? But in another respect, we could say that even somebody who inherits a fortune, they would have done something in a previous birth to merit that. So in that case, everyone is self-made. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But because you don't see what's going on in other births, you don't think about it like that. Sometimes if someone inherits something, they never really learn the value of money because it just came free. So they didn't understand how much hard work goes into creating fortune. They would have done it in another birth but forgot. So I think that learning about these things compensates for the fact that you forget from birth to birth what it takes to create a fortune.
What is the need to change one's perspective to arrive at the understanding that you just did? What's the benefit for one?
I think the main benefit is it gives you a broader view about karma, and it makes you realize that while on the one hand you can say, I am blessed, but you also cannot be blessed just like that. You will be blessed because you merit it. So eventually, whichever way you argue for it, it does come back to your fortune or your misfortune is the product of your karma, your action. I think it's important not to be arrogant about the fruits of one's karma, where you get a lot of great fruit. I think it's good to feel recognition, to say, okay, even if I did do something good, I would still say that I was gifted with the vision and the wisdom and the capacity to create my fortune. So in that sense, it still goes back to the originator of my fortune would be the divine. And that, I think, is important. We need to understand both sides.
There are many who are in favor of an attitude of gratitude because it has shown to have so many benefits for the human soul, but also being grateful. Some subscribe to the view that this increases one's fortune, firstly, and also it does create some good stuff in the brain. I think it's called endorphins, that actually makes one feel better about oneself. What is your take on gratitude? Do spiritually aware people practice gratitude?
I don't know. Probably some may not. My personal take on these fashionable little phrases, I don't really go for it. I'm the kind of person who I want to understand how things work. I like to go deep into what kind of thinking and feeling and action carries me closer to my essential resonance. I believe very much in that resonance, and to resonate with my essential self and the Supreme Being. But I don't really, in a sense, I don't really notice what I have or what I don't have, because that's not so important for me, because I feel that whatever's necessary will be there, so my mind doesn't really go to it. I never feel in danger, I never feel deprived, I never feel hard done by. So my attention goes into, this is just me, you know, just really trying to understand the spiritual knowledge, because there is where I find my pleasure, my interest, my progress goes in there, rather than whether I've got something or I haven't got something. But I mean, I can't speak for other people, you know.
Once someone understands the law of karma properly, and you stated earlier that understanding means applying, how does one then apply it in such a way that I receive more?
I don't know that I would be wanting to receive as much as possible. You know, it's an interesting phenomenon. It's always told to us in our spiritual study that you should strive for the highest possible status.
What status is being referred to?
There is an image I have in my badge, which is the image of the deities Lakshmi and Narayan. And their position is they are the emperor and the empress of the golden age, which means they have, you know, the highest possible position in the world that anyone could have, and it's for life and I mean, I'm really interested in being right with myself and doing the best possible thing, but I'm not interested in self-enrichment as you know, this idea, this concept of status has. There are some people who are very preoccupied with status, and they want money and power and position and to be influential. I feel that I have a leadership function, definitely. I like to exchange goodness with my friends and the people who I'm with, and I feel that I'm powerful, so I'm not desiring power, and I feel I have everything, whatever I need, so I don't really want any more. So I have a maybe ambivalent relationship with that.
Okay, that's your stance, but somebody watching you at home might have a different view. So the point of understanding the law of karma is to gain as much as possible from the law, to have the law work to your advantage, and not necessarily the material things, but also the good karma in terms of relationships, in terms of good intellect, in terms of good everything, good health. How does one acquire more?
It's hard for me to say because I have all those things. I have all of that. So I think that if you look at the law of karma theoretically, whatever it is you don't have, if you don't have a good intellect, there's certain pure karma that you can do to get one in a subsequent birth.
Which is what?
Which is you arrange for others to be educated. If you want good health, you arrange for others, or you create a hospital, or you arrange for health care. If you want beauty, you give gold. If you want a good place to live, you give shelter. You are a good host, you know. But what I feel is that if you cover all the bases of doing the very best that you can with whatever you have for the benefit of people, and let it come, you know, naturally and spontaneously, I think that doing it that way, you will get to a very, very high spot. And if you try to manipulate the law of karma to your advantage, I think there's a danger of deceiving oneself, and you will end up getting corrupted because you want something. You see, in spiritual knowledge, desire is considered as the key to loss. And if you are desiring these things and you're using the knowledge of karma to fulfill those desires, I feel that it will betray you and you will end up not having what you wanted, but you will get what corresponds to who you are. So I feel that even though I'm not motivated by any of these achievements, I will nevertheless, and I do already have everything you could want, and I continue to do action which corresponds to my conscience and relationships and so on, and I'm attentive as far as possible. So I think that I will go where you can go without striving for it in that way as a desire.
You used the term just now that caught my attention, how to use the law of karma to one's best advantage, and also using all your resources to the best of your ability. Explain those two concepts to us in sufficient detail so that our viewers can understand what it means to create a good life for oneself now and in future.
All of us have talents, gifts, qualities, etc. This is our inheritance, you can say. You can ascribe it to God, you can ascribe it to destiny, you can ascribe it to your karma. You can't really prove, but you can ascribe it like that. And there is an attitude in spiritual practice which I think is very good, and that is that whatever you have is not just for you. It is for the benefit of the world. And you remember some time ago I talked about motivation, that a high quality soul, you can detect a high quality soul if they're motivated by love for God and love for humanity. So if you have love for God and love for humanity, then you'll be motivated to use whatever you have to be of benefit to whomever, to educate, to inform, to sustain, to entertain, to give love, all of these things. Whatever you have, you distribute it, and it's a natural thing. You're not doing it, oh, if I do this, I'll get that. Because this attitude, if I do this, I'll get that, takes your position down. That's not a high quality motivation. Big heart, open heart, better. You know, if you do these things, automatically there's a fruit of that, but you're not looking for the fruit. Do you see what I mean? You're doing it, but you're not looking for the results. If somebody's doing it all the time looking for the results, that's considered pretty low quality soul, because your motivation is to get. There's a very interesting phrase in the Bhagavad Gita. It says you have a right to perform action, but you do not have a right to receive the return. So don't look for the return. It'll come. Just understand that.
It takes an exceptional individual to be what you just said. Mm-hmm. Exceptional. There are very few people who fall into that category, because as human beings, we want full stop. Not just for ourselves, but for the people that we love.
I think that the world has lots and lots of different kinds of people in it, and nobody's equal, everybody's different, and this is what makes the wonder of the tapestry of life. And then the question to ask yourself, which it was always put to me, you know, keep asking yourself the question, what caliber of soul am I? And it's very difficult to answer that question. And I came up with this idea that if you can really answer the question, what do you want, you can understand a lot about yourself. It's a difficult question to answer because you want things on different levels. There are needs, there are desires, there are aspirations and goals and so on. And you know, if you aspire that there should be harmony between everyone, and that you should be a conduit for the wisdom of God, that's very satisfying and quite high and good enough. You know, certainly that's something that satisfies me. You know, we have a word which is fulfillment. And I think that for people who are deep thinkers, when you finally end up with the answer to your question, what do you want, fulfillment is really high on the list, along with freedom. And these are, maybe you can call them ideals, but they're also very real. And fulfillment is that everything that you could ever wish for at a very high level is there. You're connected with God, you have good connection with the natural world and with people, and everything is like a very beautiful symphony. You're fulfilled. And maybe it's a bit abstract, but for me that works.
As far as altruism is concerned, define that within the context of today's topic.
It is said in karma philosophy that according to the meaning of the word altruism, that you are motivated by love for others. That is to say, whatever you do is for the benefit of others. But karma philosophy will say it is impossible for you to do something for others which does not benefit you. And so we have to end up with the word enlightened self-interest, and later on we'll go into that in more detail. But I like this expression quite a lot, because you're not deluding yourself that I'm the great donor and I am looking after everybody, and etc. and so forth. That will create a feeling of arrogance. You're playing God. You can't play God. You don't have the power. But you can create fortune. You can sort of enable the motion of the flow of fortune to flow around and reach as many people as possible. This, I think, is quite a good way to think about it. But you can never... Well, there are a lot of people who think, I am a giver. And what the philosophy of karma, what God would say is, you're not God. I am the giver. Whatever you do, you're going to get the return of it. So you're making an investment. You're not giving.
I can't help but wonder how one's ego comes into play here, because a number of the current held attitudes about giving and receiving is, according to spiritual definition, ego-based, body consciousness.
Yeah, I think it is. Absolutely.
So how does one de-ego?
How do
Ego
you
melt, ego burn, ego renounce?
Well, first of all, I think, using the word enlightened self-interest and investment is much more truthful. If I have extra fortune and I invest it in doing something that's beneficial for others, I'm going to increase my fortune. So I can't claim to be doing good. I'm maybe doing good, but I'm getting a lot from it. So I can't make that claim, because that would be ego. I could say, I want to create like an insurance policy. So I'm doing all sorts of pure karma, because then I will have health, wealth, good relations, everything. You're buying insurance.
Okay, so how does one pay one's premiums then? And to whom?
In the path of conventional religion, you do charitable actions in the name of God. But when you're in a direct connection with God, then you want to find out, okay, what is God's work actually? And in what way can I be an instrument for God? And how do I make myself open as an instrument for God? And it has to do with studying the teachings of God and doing your very best to apply them such that God is able to, get something done through you according to God's will. So you have to be a sort of open channel, an open conduit. If there's ego, you'll say, well, I think this is better, and God will say, up to you, then you're not my instrument anymore. And so it's a different thing, but it's a possible thing. There are not that many people who, like St. Francis, say, I want to be an instrument. But it is very much part of the possibility in the practice of Raj Yoga to be connected with God as an instrument, so that whatever God wants to get done, which is to create a harmonious world, can get done through you. And if you have God's energy going through you, it's going to do a lot more than what you could do yourself. So that is a very, very great fortune. If you want to be an instrument and you want to allow or invite the energy of God or the will of God to work through you, you have to be like an empty conduit, and that can take you to a very high place.
Okay, on that high note, we'll have to say goodbye to you. Thank you. I think that you have given the audience tools and also food for thought. Food for thought. So there you go. How to create a future for yourself in which your good karma is ensured. A very deep subject and something that is quite thought-provoking. And if you're spiritually seeking, spiritually minded, I'm sure you'll find that Sister Denise has given you some information that you could use to your advantage. Take care and goodbye.